Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the program Business Time. This is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country, and my name is William Kumwembe. In the program today, we look at prospects for investment in Malawi as the country hosts its first ever EU-Malawi Investment Forum. Hello and welcome. In our main story in the program today, Malawi is for the first time hosting the Malawi EU Investment Forum to at least look at perspective for investment in the country. This comes as the country continues to struggle with a number of challenges, including acute shortage of forex. But at the same time, Malawi is working towards an import substitution drive to ensure that it becomes a more predominantly producing nation than consuming nation that it has been known for quite some time. Kingsley Jassy witnessed the opening of the forum and has this report.
This is the very first investment forum that the EU and Malawi have held, and it's under an initiative called EU Gateway Strategy, which provides a framework for the EU to support other countries. And they are intending to mobilize about 300 billion euros. During the opening ceremony, the president really talked about how important this partnership between EU and Malawi is at the time that Malawi is struggling with macroeconomic imbalances.
More than anything is a grace of God in many forms. And one of those forms is the favor and goodwill of nations who are willing to invest in Malawi to drive the kind of private sector growth that achieves wealth creation, job creation, and food security.
And the Deputy Director General in the Department of International Partnership and the EU Commission talks about the opportunities that her institution brings to Malawi and what she expects.
Investments are to secure the development of Malawi, and we are aware that the trade deficit is one big impediment to the development, because you need to get the financing to be able to cover for import. So the way we address the question is first through policy dialogue with the government. First and foremost, we support the implementation of the IMF.
And according to the Minister of Trade, various ministries will present some bankable projects that are being earmarked for financing under this initiative.
We are happy that the EU has come in large numbers to this investment forum, and there's a lot of interest in mega farms. There's a lot of interest in energy, especially renewable energy, and there's also quite a lot of interest in tourism. But one thing that I've noticed so far is that they do have quite a lot of technology in renewable energy, and there's a lot of interest in renewable energy. Or an eye-catching one for me is the biomass technology, where we are really wasting quite a lot of, we have too much waste. If you go Kuntaya, whether it's in Lilongwe or Mzuzu or Blantyre, you see that that can really be used or put to good use in terms of generation of electricity, whether it's 1 megabyte, whether it's 10 megabytes, whether it's 100 megabytes, but we need to put to use some of the biomass that we're having in our agriculture fields, in our forests, but also as rubbish from our cities. And we are learning quite a lot and getting inspired and developing partnerships with our colleagues from Europe.
There's a challenge from the...
So basically what we've done is to give them bankable projects. So the Ministry of Tourism has pitched bankable projects. The Ministry of Agriculture has also pitched their ready projects to the Ministry of Energy. And there's already a lot of interest. Even the Mpatamanga is being championed by 2 European companies. So we would want to have more and more of these interests. Europe is not a stranger to working with Malawi Malawi. The M1 road that we are priding ourselves in, it's an investment from the European Investment Bank. And the water board here in Lilongwe has a lot of projects with the European Investment Bank. So Europe is not a stranger to these collaborations, and we believe that there will be more collaborations and we can do a lot of technology transfer, but most importantly, the financing of our projects.
During the opening ceremony, Malawi signed 3 agreements, financing agreements from the EU, which are going into areas of corruption fight, governance, but also trying to strengthen government systems as regards to trade and investment facilitation.
Now, the EU has been Malawi's trading partner for quite some time. However, the trade gap has been wide for quite a long time in favor of European nations. Of course, Malawi continues to export some commodities in a raw form like tobacco and other agricultural produce. Now, we caught up with Miriam Ferrari, one of the officials from the EU, to find out how would discussions like these bring in the desired change and difference on the landscape.
Increasing domestic resource mobilization is also fundamental for the government to have the sufficient financial surface to be able to cover. And then where we do invest directly, so beyond supporting policy dialogue, public financial management we support directly through the budget support I just mentioned. So we have a component dedicated specifically to supporting all the measures for public financial management and the reforms needed to improve the business environment, because these reforms are necessary to allow increased investment. You need to have a certain level of security when you invest in a country. So we're working with the government to put in place the reform that would allow more security for investors, including concessional financing to be able to attract investment. Then with the other projects, we work on the enabling factors that would allow increased productivity, and then to an extent with the hope that we increase productivity to the level of ensuring Malawi's sufficiency, and even more to allow Malawi to export to the European Union. One clear example, all the projects I mentioned on electricity, the ultimate goal would be to allow Malawi to produce sufficiently to be able to, and to be connected to Mozambique and Zambia and the region, to be in a position to export excess electricity to the neighboring countries, what we call the Southern Africa Power Pool. And we have financial estimates that tell us that once we will have all the connections in place and the projects develop, the Malawi could earn up to at least $150 million a year by exporting electricity. So this is the ultimate objective, and we work with the government, but in particular with the private sector, to develop those infrastructure and the reforms, legal reforms that would allow this. Same for agriculture. We aim at developing local value chains, so working with the farmers, but seeing with them how to maybe mutualize production, go for cooperatives that would make savings, that would allow bigger plots, in terms of increased productivity by mutualizing inputs. We can work with specific projects to develop organic fertilizers, so increasing production in a sustainable manner, but also decreasing the need for very expensive inputs. And we are particularly sensitive on the fact that Malawi has been hit by the rise in price following the Russian aggression against Ukraine. And we would like, by producing on organic fertilizers, you could already increase productivity while saving on inputs.
Remember, this is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And we are in Lilongwe, where Malawi is hosting the first ever Malawi European Union Investment Forum. The essence of the forum is to unlock existing potential for investment in Malawi and also see the possibility of partnership between local and external investors, especially from the European Union bloc. Now, one wonders, what economic essence would such a move have to the economy of Malawi? This is a question we posed to Betha Chikadza, who is president for the Economics Association of Malawi, ECAMA.
These forums are essential, taking into consideration that we are a country that is developing, and we need that coordination between investors, the government, but also the private sector. And we've seen a couple of agreements being signed, but also some other things that the government is doing on their part, and also stipulating other things that the private sector is doing. So as a country that is trying, for example, to grow its economy, but also increase foreign exchange earnings and so on and so forth, we need these investors, and we also need clear strategies on how they're going to come here and invest. And we've seen, for example, the presentation by the Minister of Tourism, but also Minister of Trade, just showing us where potential investment can go. Probably maybe, for example, in terms of tourism, we just need more from the part of government, where we need proper roads or proper connections to those areas where investors can actually invest. Because if you see in other countries, people do not struggle to go where tourism is. So I think we also need those things here. These investors can have all the money, can have all the investment, but the government needs to do its part clearly. Thank you. The operating environment has been a little bit hostile in the past, but we've seen strategies that government is putting in place. For example, streamlining ways on how an investor can come into the country and invest. The setting up, for example, for MITC, and where the investor cannot so it's not supposed to go to different departments just to seek one thing, but then maybe they can just find everything at one place. That's also one thing. But we need more from what I've seen. I think as government is trying to implement some of these things, I think they need to do more in terms of making or leveling the playing field, the ground, so that the investors should not struggle in setting up their investments here. They should know where to get what, they should know which license to get, but they should also be able to find out if they invest in a certain area or a certain priority area that has already been mapped, how long is it going to take them to easily recoup their investments and also start making profits, because for an investor, it's all about profits from the investment, and that is also something that I think the government needs to bring about clearly. We were happy to see that there are some other areas that has already been mapped, already being feasibility studies done. So I think to that extent, I would say I think the government is in the right direction. Thank you.
Now, when all is said and done, Malawi remains one of the countries in this part of the world with vast opportunities. But there is a little more that the country needs to do. I'm joined here by Kingsley Jassy, one of the business news journalists here at Times Media Group, for an insight on how the situation reflects and also what needs to be done for Malawi to clinch more deals from a place like this one. Kingsley, first ever Malawi European Union Investment Forum. What's your quick takeaways from this forum?
I see a huge opportunity for Malawi to get some investments from the EU market. It's a huge market, a source for investments. Malawi has struggled to attract FDI. We see that this is causing some structural issues where we're failing to sustain our international trade, especially in terms of imports, causing all these problems we're having now. So that is because all the opportunities we have, we haven't really exploited them. We've got mineral resources. I think the president mentioned we've got so many mineral resources that we are yet to start mining and exporting to address these problems. We've got opportunities in tourism, in agriculture. We are really depending on agriculture, yes, but then we are not doing it to the level that it can sustain us as a growing population. So this is now this is the time that we have to look at the forum as the opportunity that now we have to sell ourselves to the EU investors so that they can come and start putting their money in those potential areas we're talking about. ATM strategy that we're talking about, it needs financing. The EU offers that kind of financing that we need.
It's not the first time for Malawi to hold events like this. It has held it before with other partners. Do we see such events yielding the desired fruits?
It hasn't been to that level where we could see the impact. That's why we've had so many projects in the pipeline and dying there. And that's why we're failing to sustain ourselves. So it's high time we look at these opportunities and really look at the deals we clinch and follow through to see them actualized. And that has got a lot to do with our systems here in Malawi. When investors express that they want to put their money in Malawi, what do they experience when they come, when they're on the ground? There are issues of access to land, issues of bureaucracy, issues of so many things. We've got the power challenges. An investor would want to come, but then there's an issue of power deficit. They can't do their investment. So we need to put our ground to the level that the investor, when they come in Malawi, they don't find so many challenges for them to actualize their. So key to it is how we follow the processes of investment. So many investors pull out because they get frustrated along the way because of the systems that that are there, the impediments that are there. So these are the things that we can address. For example, I'll give you an example of mining development agreements. Some companies took 10 years negotiating. How can you take 10 years to negotiate on a deal that you really so need to address your economic issues? So these are the things that we need to stop doing. They're frustrating investors. So we need to start sorting out put our house in order, make sure that investors when they come, when we sign, these are preliminary MOUs that we'll see being signed here. But then the actual work is when these investors start pushing for their investments to start to be actualized. That's where the real job has to be done.
More needs to be done. Thank you so very much, Kingsley, for quite an insightful discussion. Kingsley Jassy, one of the business journalists here at Times Media Group, and my name is William Kumwembe, and this is how we wrap up this week's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. Thank you for watching, but always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Stay safe and bye for now.